Hey everybody, welcome to part 2 of our discussion on the three branches of government. Last time we talked about the legislative branch, which is Congress at the national level, and the legislative branch makes the laws. That is their main responsibility. They also have other responsibilities as well, other powers, and we talked about that last time. So today we're going to talk about the executive branch of the United States government. So again, there's three branches: the legislative branch, the executive branch, and then the judicial branch, which we'll talk about next week. So the executive branch is found, the requirements, the blueprint of the executive branch is found in Article 2 of the United States Constitution. So who is in this branch? Where the head of the executive branch is the President of the United States. So the head of the executive branch is the President of the United States. Who can become president? Well, you have to be at least 35 years old. You have to be a natural born United States citizen, which means you have to be a citizen at birth. You cannot be an immigrant that gains their citizenship. And you also have to live in the United States for at least 14 years. So those are the requirements to becoming President of the United States. So the main power of the executive branch is to carry out the laws. So the executive branch's main power, their main responsibility is to implement, to enforce, to carry out. They all mean the same thing. The laws that have been passed by Congress. They are there to make sure that the law on paper is actually implemented in real life, and it happens. The Constitution clearly states that the executive branch, and quote, take care that the laws be faithfully executed. So the main power is to carry out the laws. Now, that's a lot of responsibility, won't you say? If one person had to make sure all the laws passed by Congress are carried out, it would be impossible. So the president has people to help him make sure that the laws are carried out, that federal laws are carried out. So he has the help of a vice president. And the vice president, he plays the role as advisor to the president. He also becomes president if something happens to the current president. The vice president takes his place. The vice president also is the head of many different divisions within the executive branch. Like, for example, during the coronavirus, the Vice President Mike Pence is the head of the coronavirus task force that kind of deals with the plans surrounding the coronavirus pandemic. But the president also has many other helpers, and he has cabinet members. And now it's not the cabinet that you would find in your kitchen. The cabinet is a group of special advisors in different areas such as agriculture, health, education, energy. So these people advise the president on what to do. And so these different cabinet members are called secretaries. So if you look at the breakdown of the cabinet, so let's say Secretary of Education. She is the advisor to the president on education, but she has people underneath her that kind of work on the different plans that they have, the different laws. So The executive branch is thousands of people with the president at the top. The president also has many different agencies that he is the head of. And agencies are put in place to enforce the laws of the federal government, such as environment, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. You have the product safety, FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, to make sure that our food is safe to eat. You have transportation agency, you have the FBI, you have trade agency. So these all help the president carry out his main power, his main responsibility to make sure that the laws are implemented. So how are members selected? So the president is the only one that is voted on in the executive branch. The vice president is picked by the president. The cabinet members are picked by the president and approved by Congress. But we don't, as United States citizens, we do not directly vote for the president. It is through a process called the Electoral College. So people vote for an elector from their state. So we don't vote directly for the president. So when I go cast my ballot for Donald Trump or Joe Biden, I am not directly voting for them. I am voting for these electors. And each state has a certain amount of electors based on members of Congress. So if you see Ohio has 18, the little 18, that's 18 electors, because we have 16 members of the House of Representatives and 2 senators. So we vote on what should these 18 people vote on and vote for. Should they vote for Trump or should they vote for Biden? These electors then vote for the president. Okay, so these electors are the ones that vote for the president. So the problem is that came up in the last election. Someone could win popular vote, which means they had the most votes overall by the people, but they still lose the election because they do not have enough electoral votes. You see, you need 270 or more electoral votes to win. So you could win all these little states, but if someone wins Texas with 38, California with 55, Florida with 29, Ohio with 18, you can win 10 states and win the election, but you don't get the most votes. Does that make sense? So the president is selected through this process of the Electoral College. How long can one person be president? Well, each term that they serve is 4 years. And they can serve up to 2 terms. So they can be president for 8 years. No more than that. And that's actually a constitutional amendment. It goes against the Constitution to serve any longer than 8 years. What power does the executive branch have over laws? Well, the president can recommend legislation to Congress. They can kind of say, maybe you should do this, kind of like what Obama did for the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare. He recommended it. So here's Obama talking with some members of Congress. But this is what you need to know. The president has the power to sign or veto, which veto means reject, bills passed by Congress. So if a bill passes through both the House and we'll talk about this all next week when we talk about how a bill becomes a law. But if a bill passes through the House of Representatives and the Senate, it goes to the president. And the president has 2 options. He can either sign it into law, which George W. Bush is doing in this picture, or he can veto or reject the bill that is passed by Congress. So he has the power to either sign or veto bills passed by Congress. And if he signs it, it goes to become a law. If he rejects it, there's something that Congress can do, and we'll talk about that more next week. So he can sign or veto bills passed by Congress. So what other powers does the president have? He or she makes treaties. Treaties are agreements with other nations. So he is kind of the president is the spokesperson for the country. He goes and he visits other countries and determines, do we need treaties, agreements between like the United States and China or the United States and England and so on. The president appoints judges. Now, appoints means to assign someone to that position. So he appoints judges to the Supreme. So he appoints Supreme Court justices. So the judicial branch is the Supreme Court of the federal government. Those the 9 judges. So he appoints those people to become justices. He also appoints other federal judges. So he has a say in who is and who isn't the judges in the court system of our federal government. The president also has the power to pardon or set free people who have committed federal crimes if he deems it necessary. The president also serves as commander-in-chief of the armed forces, so he can send troops into battle. He has the nuclear code, so he has nuclear power to drop atomic bombs, nuclear bombs, if he decides to. The president also holds executive powers and serves as the boss of the executive branch and its government workers, which is thousands. And he appoints the leaders of the different agencies and departments. So all those cabinet members, he appoints. He assigns those people. Okay, so again, the president makes treaties with other countries or agreements. It could be about trade, about peace, about really anything. He appoints judges to the Supreme Court. Those judges have to be approved by Congress, the Senate, but he does appoint them. And he also appoints other federal judges. He has the power to pardon people who have committed federal crimes. He serves as commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and he holds executive powers. There's this idea of executive privilege, where he can actually make a rule that has the same power as a law. And he serves as the boss for executive branch workers. All right, the 3 that you really need to know from that is he can make treaties, he appoints judges, and he serves as commander-in-chief of the armed forces. The other 2 are kind of common sense based on his other powers. So that is the information that you need to know about the executive branch. Let me know if you have any questions. Drop a comment in the private comments of Google Classroom, or you can send a message on Class Dojo, and I can better explain any of the concepts to you. Thank you.